Okay, so for me, when I was thinking about FI and myself, is if recently I've been also trying to find out my Enneagram, and I've been thinking it might be like a six, possibly. Um, but I was trying to, it got me thinking on FI, and when you guys were talking about, FI, SI, or how FI works in you, I was trying to think about how it works in me. I notice is that I think that I'm using, forward focused introverted intuition as a method or as a tool to sort of preemptively feel emotional about something before it happens. Feel emotional about something in the abstract so that when the actual event happens, there's much less of an impact. Like I'm emotionally prepared for it. Like for me, if there's something sad that occurs, chances are I've been thinking about it beforehand, like even years prior to it. So the things that really get me sad are the things that sneak up on me very abruptly. Um, because I kind of have this method that I undertake where I try to sort of desensitize myself, or maybe not even desensitize, just like uh, sort of like, I don't even know, like
Pre-experience. You pre-experience your horrors.
pre-experience. Yeah,
And
yeah,
I do a certain amount of that myself. I've pictured my parents' funeral more than anything else that would be in that area. And it's because I understand that, I mean, it could be not, it could be for another 20 years, but they are 80 years old. And, people don't live forever. So I've had to picture that, but I've had assistance from my subconscious SI or subconscious and SI in that I've also had a dream of getting a call explaining to me that my mom had died. It was awful. I mean, until you wake up, it feels as real as if it actually happened. And it was awful. But at least, it's like you said, you know, you don't want to go into an experience like that completely unprepared for what reality is going to feel like. And I had actually even thought a little bit about Lacey. We as a family had fretted together about Lacey and said we didn't like how she was getting old and how she wasn't going to be with us together forever. And we started saying she was younger than she was. Without ever saying we were going to do that, but everyone just started saying she was younger. She's, I don't know, it was like 12, 13, something like that. She was 15.
yeah. I know with my Labrador, like for me, it's like when it because the only people, and yeah, I consider my Labrador in the group of people
Of
who have
course.
died in my life.
Of course.
The
Fairly so.
I've like the only people that have been, at least somewhat relatively close to me is a dog and two grandparents. Um, but both of the grandparents ended up getting Alzheimer's, so it was like you could see it coming from a mile off. Uh, and then with the dog, obviously, he just started slowing down. So in all three situations, I had plenty of time to adjust. So that basically, when the actual events happened, I was like, okay.
Right.
Um, but yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
it's like,
go ahead.
what was that? Um, yeah, I guess I'm just trying to think. I don't know.
Well, I was gonna say the
Uh,
following, which is that Lacey's death was abrupt, totally caught me off guard. It was, she was perfectly fine. That morning, I had lay on the couch extra time, petting her belly right before, like pushing, laying on the couch longer, loving Lacey before I left for work. Right, so the whole package ends up being too perfect. It's too perfect because another thing that happened I sometimes left the gate open. Sometimes I didn't leave it open. I mean, it wasn't like I was trying to keep him pinned in, but I sort of occasionally would try to keep Lacey pinned in. And up until that morning, I swear to God, this is true. If Compton was outside the gate and I felt like closing the gate to keep Lacey pinned in, I'd just say, "Fine, Compton, fuck you," and I close the gate because Compton was wouldn't. was hard to get, and I was running late and stuff. I just say, "Fuck it, then come. Then you stay out until I come back."
Uh-huh.
On that morning, for the first time ever, I went to go close the gate to keep Lacey in. Compton was out again, and I said, "I'll leave it open. It's hot. She's gonna get thirsty." So in other words, I
Uh-huh.
prioritized Compton. Now, the thing about this is, since Lacey's died, Compton and I have become incredibly close. Compton and the cat have always been incredibly close. Now, Compton, the cat, and I are like a love trio. She was keeping them away from me, like all the time, right? Like every time they come close to me, she'd bark at them, and I was perfectly okay with that because I had established to all the animals, Lacey is the queen, and I'm sorry, but she's my favorite animal.
That is so funny because when I went to go visit my cousin up in California, Northern California, she had like two dogs, and one of them, or no, three dogs, and one of them was like the alpha one that like, oh no, it was like a little puppy, right, dog? It was, and there's this like pit bull kind of dog, but the little dog would like bark and go, ah, get away from the people. Like
Right,
she needs all the love, she wants all the love, and it was a little dog that was bullying the big one,
right.
which was
Well,
funny.
Yeah.
Lacey was alpha around here. Compton deferred 100%, and Kitty didn't really get along with Lacey that well. Although Lacey and Compton sort of played the chase game together occasionally, but Lacey didn't know how to play it, and she'd start barking at the cat and be like, ah! you know.
Mm.
But the thing is, it just feels like she martyred herself. She was like, okay, now he's ready for me to go. I'm gonna go martyr myself in this super clean way. I'm gonna get hit by a car, get my neck broken, no mess, no blood and guts, okay? And I'm gonna do it at a time when Delilah, Eric, and Candace are all in the neighborhood and can all come deal with it at the same time. They can bury me together as a family, and they can bury me here right in the flower bed and shit. And this will teach Eric about loss. It'll motivate him to fix up his house. And it'll change his perspective on talking with family people. Realize how satisfied he is with it as it is. And he doesn't need to do anything. He doesn't need to care. He doesn't need to fret about that shit. That's the thing that I was starting to fret. It was making it not fun. I was fretting about whether I was doing it right and shit like that, right? Like, oh, I need to think more about strategy. I'm trying to. No, I don't. It's already fucking everything it needs to be. So that Lacey clearly martyred herself, knowing all this shit was going to happen. The
I
only
was going to bring
possible
up another.
explanation.
I was going to bring up another explanation, which is you're describing that your relationship with the other two animals has improved significantly. Maybe there was a power struggle. I don't know. Maybe
You
the
think
death wasn't
Compton
as clean
killed
as you
her?
think it was.
You think
Maybe
Compton pushed her in front of the car?
Compton or the cat. I wouldn't put it past the cat.
I wouldn't put it past a cat either. That's a possible theory. But you know what, Host Ken? Until I see that somebody actually has surveillance, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? If somebody, like, a surveillance camera from somebody's house, and I watch it, and Lacey's just standing there by the curb, smelling shit, and Compton rushes up and shoulders her out into the street right as the car is coming and she dies. That would be the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life. But
Honestly,
possible.
I hate the idea of one of my dogs getting hit by a car, but the idea of an abrupt death, I would have preferred that for my Labrador, because for him, it's like near the end, it's like he had some sort of nerve issue go on to the point to where he fell down one day and couldn't get back up. And so we had to carry him outside and he had to urinate and he was like that for a couple of weeks before we finally put him down. So it's like for me, I kind of would have preferred that he just, got hit by a Mack truck or something.
I mean, I was saved that whole super old age thing. Lacey was more or less getting super blind, which isn't a big deal, but there are indicators that the stuff that she didn't get to experience wasn't really the super good stuff. The super good stuff's already happened. We had all our good times and shit. So it felt so like planned. It felt so perfect. That to me is the magic of magical thinking. It's okay to believe those narratives because you're not basing policy decisions on them, right? You're not basing big important life decisions like I didn't say Lacey died, therefore I'm gonna quit everything and move to Tibet and study with monks or something. At least that's God's change in me that was the right kind of change. It's like not massive change. It's let's be a little bit more sensible, Eric. Let's live in the house instead of since you have a house and a garage. Let's use the house part instead of the garage part. Basic things like that.
Well, also for me, it's like I know you kind of described things more of an SI thing, but I'm starting to learn just how much I value the future dynamic of things. Because I used to think it was much more of a sentimental thing. Like I like the idea of leaving a place and sort of looking back and being like, I'm not going to be here again, and then moving forward. Like I like that dynamic um,
On
of
that on that idea, let me talk about Abraham's similar thing. We're not similar, but related, and see if anybody else identifies with this. I think it's crazy. So I encouraged Abraham to start a YouTube channel because he kept bugging me. Like he can't be alone for 5 seconds. He's got to talk to somebody. So he messages me or something. He says, "Look, you need to start a YouTube channel if you want to talk all the time. Just talk on YouTube, whatever." And his basic argument about this was this: it's too important. Look, it's very, very important that if I'm gonna make a YouTube channel, then the first YouTube video has to be perfect because I'm gonna want to look back at that YouTube video later, and I don't want it to disappoint me. Now, of course, this brilliant line of thinking means
how old is he?
18.
Yeah, I was still stuck in that mindset at 18. And I'm still kind of stuck in it a little bit, but I'm learning very rapidly. Just it's a quote that I love. I'd heard somebody say, I don't remember who to attribute it to, but the quote I heard was, "The first draft of everything is shit," and I love that. It's just
It's a good idea. I think
uh,
I think it's not it's not exactly really. Sometimes you don't want to mess with it more, but not usually text. Not text, but something else. I gotta pee.
okay. uh, yeah, just trying to think. I don't know what other comments Eric will have on that sort of perfectionism. He's probably still recording, and I'm just sitting here not saying anything. Um, just trying to think. See, now I don't want to say something because I want to save what I have to say for when he's here. That way I actually have somebody who I can visually communicate with. Um, yeah. 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 Uh, although he's getting up there in age, probably takes him longer to pee. Let's see it. Is that you? Oh. Eh. Elsie says that Ken, the way I see it, is that either you tried your best at the time, so that's all you can do, or you didn't really care much, so that's fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's still things. Sorry, there's still things that I feel like I still try my best in. There's things that I kind of worry over. I mean, even some of the videos I put up recently, um, especially like the first ones where I'm monologuing, kind of like, I don't want it to be awful, but for me, I resonate with the idea that it's okay to have those smaller failures, you know, because for me, a lot of the learning process is like like having failures is the other half of the big picture, and I value the big picture. So if I'm not getting the failures too, I'm missing half the picture. So if I'm not doing things, I'm not failing. If I'm not failing at all, I mean, technically, if I'm not doing things, I am failing, but I'm only getting the same kind of failure. What I need is to try new experiences and get that different kind of failure and that different kind of victory.
Yeah. I say, ideally, what you do is your reaction to either is the same for a different reason. So your reaction to failure is, "Ooh, I got to bury that with something else." Your reaction to success is, "Ooh, that makes me excited. I want to do it again." And then if you can get that down, then the answer to the problem is always doing the something. You know, so then you end up doing other stuff.
But it's funny that you were saying for Abraham, he wanted to be able to look back and have it be perfect. That's something that I identify with a bit, but for me, it's more what I like about talking with famous people. He manifested, like it was manifested, and I know it. I mean, it's YouTube and everything, but it's still, to me, it's visual. It's still physical reality. It's manifested in a realistic way. This long-term sort of big overview progression from here's the start, having somebody essentially like in that first video. I think I've talked about this before, but that retrospective you did where you were talking about like that first video where you sat down and you were like, yeah, here's sort of this idea, and then you didn't realize that later down the line that was going to end up happening. And that was cool to me because it was like just a sort of prediction, like, oh man, it wasn't even like a prediction that's going to happen. It was just this would be cool,
Right.
and then it happened.
That tripped me out too. I didn't remember that video until I made that retrospective. I hadn't watched it since I made it probably, or I watched it a bunch when I made it, and then I haven't watched it in months since. You know, so that tripped me out because I didn't realize at that early juncture that I had any real clear idea of, except just that I gotta get this out of me, you know.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, for me, what I'm talking about, with that future-oriented stuff, is that's kind of like what gives me hope, I think. Something I'm also noticing is that in earlier years of my life, I would get this feeling every now and again, and I describe it in sort of contrast, but also tied to sentiment as I was talking about it, because it's like that same sort of good feeling you might get. Well, not necessarily good, but that how you can get a strong feeling by looking at something or interacting with something if you're sentimental about it. In that similar way, like going outside or something. Like for me, like just breathing in winter air for me always has like a sort of medicinal effect. It always like I don't know why, I can't explain it, but smelling winter air when it's cold, some snow on the ground fills me with hope, and I'm not sure why, but I like doing it.
I mean, I could totally see. I could totally see that happening to me as well. I love seasons too, but I think it's because when it's cold and the days are short and stuff, it feels as though the universe is saying, "It's all good. Our purpose is coziness."
Mm. I also kind of see it as like in the dead of winter, if there's not like a storm raging around or something like that, and you got like snow on the ground or something, there's like a quiet that comes across, which maybe doesn't appeal to you the same way it does to
No,
me.
it
But
appeals
it's
to
like,
me greatly,
yeah,
for sure.
it's like there's there's I know it was kind of an unfortunate experience, but there was this time that there was this real bad ice storm, and what I mean by ice storm is like a good like quarter inch of ice was like on tree branches, just covering them. It looked insane. because it was like it looked like everything was covered in glass, but it's like that happened and just took the power out of like everyone surrounding us, and we were outside at night, so it's like there's no lights for like as far as the eye can see. There's no lights anywhere, and it's just dark and it's just cold. And I was like, I like this. It feels kind of cozy in a way. It was just things were
Yeah,
just kind of contained.
because in a status quo normal thing, I think we are also trapped in uh, this web of metaphysical realities that it's very difficult for us to experience the moment in general, especially intuitives, but more so I think for everybody nowadays. It's just the web of interacting agent relationship slash the way things operate between people, small groups, big groups, like all that kind of shit is way more complicated now than it used to be. Everybody knows a lot more people because of Facebook primarily or internet, you know? Everybody knows a lot more people and is in contact with people for longer time periods but with less frequency. So it's like that person who prior to the internet would have been a vaguely remembered person from childhood that I never actually interacted with since childhood now becomes somebody who grabs a brief chunk of little time because I message back and forth with them once or twice, you know, as we have a little fun exchange. That's great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying every single one of those complicates the whole metaphysical plane that we live in a little bit more. And so, since we're sort of keeping track of and managing these various relationships and statuses of projects in action and like work stuff and school stuff and like we're managing all that shit in our head all the time. It makes it incredibly difficult to value actively s the moment.
Yeah. I kind of agree with what Elsie was saying, where she doesn't really remember the seasons. For me, I feel like I don't like sensing is low enough, and I prefer extroversion at that. So it's like it's actually exciting every single time a new season rolls around, because it's like every single time it rolls around, then I once it's there, then yeah, I remember that kind of, but it's like there's always like this anticipation because while it's not there, I can't really remember it.
Well, I'm always super excited about cold in LA because I mean, when it gets a real cold snap for like a couple of weeks, then I get sick of it by the end of it. But mostly I'm excited by it because it's not the status quo at all. It's usually too hot for large periods of the year, and then it's nice for some periods of the year, for a good amount of the year, and then it's too cold for a little while. And so it's like I'm stoked when it's cold because it's the novelty, you know. Oh, it's never cold. When it gets up like 40 degrees, LA is just like, okay, bring in the snowplows, bring in the emergency crews. It's fucking freezing.
Yeah. We, where I'm at, we actually get a little bit of attention when it comes to the roads getting plowed because we live pretty close to the Air Force Base that we live by. So it's like, my dad. He's always in the position. He's like, I never get work off because it's like everywhere else. It's like closing down this school, this place of work. Yeah, no one's gonna be able to make it. But my dad works at the base, so it's like the roads near the base. It's like there's salt trucks running all the time. Uh,
Good
some
news.
military guys are,
Military efficiency has made it so you can go to work today.
yeah.
That's good.
Um, yeah.
Other thoughts about this general topic? I believe. What is it? Ken's FI. Ken's feelings. Ken's tender ointments.
Yeah, my Tinder ointments.
That's the
Uh,
official term for introverted feeling.
yeah.
In the sentence slot, I have tender ointments.
You have polar Tinder ointments.
Yeah, I do. All right, so anybody else want to talk about their own tender ointments? JC, how tender are your ointments today? She's not paying attention. Carolyn, do you have feelings? Do you have introverted feelings? Do you have feelings inside of you? Tell us about them. Do you experience feelings such as happiness and anger?
She experiences meh and then genocide. Carolyn's like meh, and then her kids are like walking in the house with muddy boots, and she's like, everyone dies.
Carolyn experiences intense emotions. Anger is like you're yelling in the car. You know, you yell at people when they're not driving right. What do you think you get more often? Giddy or angry? Oh yeah, me too, by a large margin. But I do get giddy sometimes. I get I say one of my emotions is right on. It's like if I smoked a lot of weed, maybe. It's a pretty good emotion. Stoned. Is stoned an emotion? I think it is.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I can taste emotions at this point.
Saren, do you experience anger or giddiness, or you choose a favorite a most common emotion? Anger, hilarity, or crying? Name your most common emotion? All the same, all the time. Host Ken, what do you choose? Anger, hilarity, or crying? What's most common for you?
Hilarity, probably.
I think hilarity
I find
comes in second for me, probably.
I'll find myself, especially if I'm in a situation where I'm in a remotely social setting, or say if like I'm at work or something like that, I'll just get hit by an image in my head that I think's funny, and I'm telling myself don't laugh, and that just makes it worse.
And I think that's a good most common emotion to have is laughing. JC, what do you think? Do you think your most common emotion is crying, laughing, or anger? I don't think it's anger. I heard you a second ago, JC. Now you're just pranking me. Aaron,
She might be asleep. I don't know.
I just heard her. That's why I went back to her because she made
She
jostle,
may have
jostle,
been.
jostle. Oh, she's
She may just
jostling.
Yeah, jostling. Okay.
Oh, she's wrestling. No, you're right. She's not jostling. She's wrestling, like the leaves in the wind. Probably. I like the fact that JC still hangs out with us when she's asleep. I want to try that sometime. I want to go to sleep on
That
the
that
couch and leave GTM open and the audio on and just listen to people talk.
that
That'd be great.
that is how alone she is currently, and being an ESFP. She has so few people interacting with her in real life. She's willing to hang out at a GTM while sleeping just so she doesn't have to be alone.
See, I think the GTM session is providing her warmth and it's too cold in her house.
Ah, our mirth is coming through the speakers.
It's actually our goodwill is radiating from her computer as physical heat.
Ah, that might just be the GTM overclocking her computer and making it run hotter.
No, it's our goodwill. Unfortunately, the
Okay.
problem is what JC doesn't know is that if our goodwill gets too big, it may damage your computer.
Ah,
So, so keep it down a little bit. Just have medium goodwill. Anybody else have emotions they want to talk about? Is sleeping an emotion? Probably not.
there's a YouTube channel that I'm subscribed to. Hold on, let me try to find this. It what's it called? It's called the
Poop Eaters Anonymous?
Dictionary. It's called the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, and it's
Really?
like basically they. I'll provide a link. They I think they just make up words to attribute to things we don't have. Like they attribute new words to definitions for things we don't have definitions for yet, or words to describe those definitions. I mean,
I see. So it like there's an emotion of um,
like they made up the word.
ambivalence transitioning into grudging happiness for somebody else's success, something like that. That'd
They have
be
this one, Lockeism or Lockeism, longing for the clarity of disaster, and they have videos
that's a
on stuff
great.
like that.
That is such a great definition. Longing for the clarity of disaster. That's great.
Or Lutalica, Lutalica, yeah, Lutalica, the part of your identity that doesn't fit into categories. They just got stuff like that.
That's great. I gotta check that channel out. I'll probably subscribe to it. Sounds fantastic.
There was one that I liked. It was called like Canopsia or something like that. I gotta find it again. Or Canopsia. I like the one Astrophy or Astrophe or
There's
something
no
like that.
word
The
in the
feeling
English
of being
language
stuck
for
on
desire
Earth.
to
Like I've
disappear,
had that so much.
or the eerie tension of a looming
That's what it was.
thunderstorm.
Canopsia. The eeriness of places
Spark of eye
left behind.
contact that
That
can
was the
leave
one
you.
I thought was cool.
Nice neato. We've got 200,000 subscribers. That's cool. Yeah, I'll watch this channel. I bet. I bet I'll watch that. That sounds
Well,
cool.
we need to mobilize off of their platform. We need to make the dictionary of obscure whimsiness.
Well, it's already begun. I already have delineatorate. Okay, delineatorate is a word that means you are concurrently delineating something and iterating a set of things.
Question, Eric, do you have the certification to be doing this?
Yeah, I got certified by quadrival.com. It's okay.
What's a word that we can prescribe to the definition of the feeling you get when you hate the idea of having to get certified to do something?
Well,
Ericsism?
no. I don't know. That's actually probably the hardest part of the whole thing. The fun
Yeah.
part is coming up with definitions that need words. And then the hard part is coming up with the words. Because if the word's going to have something, ideally you want some sort of like root words in there that make it sound like it's related to the thing.
Yeah, I don't know what we could use. um,
I think there needs to be a word for the state in which one has a mild interest in having her post-death skull become a hat stand, but no interest whatsoever in the fate of her skull beyond that. We call that Elceotropocene or something like that, in which it's a mental disorder in which you care about your fate of your skull, but only on a single vector. Fortunately, it has no negative impacts on your life, really, but it should be named. It should be entered into the new and improved, which is another thing this is what we really need to work on. The new and improved what do they call it? DMR? The psychology thing that names all the psychology disorders. Right? The one that has, well, I mean, Ken, have you gotten diagnosed for ODD yet? Have you heard about ODD?
I probably haven't.
Thank you, Aaron.
I
It's
got
the
the
DSM.
I got the BPD. I got the BP gasoline. I got the ADD. I got the ADHD. I got the ACDC. I got the ASMR. I got the whole thing.
Well, you need to get the AARP. But
Okay.
beyond that, ODD is oppositional defiant disorder. It's a disorder in which children are non-cooperative in a way that damages no property, violates no rights, and some other qualifier that they're not actually doing anything wrong. Okay, that if they do those things, then they have another disorder called it's a harsher sounding name, right? But oppositional defiant disorder, the only thing that they're describing is somebody who disagrees with them. No, I don't like your stupid oppositional defiant disorder. Well, that's because you have it. Oh, really? Yeah, see how you're opposing our idea without... I know you're not hurting anybody or damaging property or anything like that, Eric, but you're being contrary unnecessarily. We can prove you have ODD because you keep denying it exists.
Your denial, the first step is admitting you have a problem, Eric.
Yeah, I have a problem with the DSM. I'm going to make my own set of mental disorders, and it's going to be a whole set of mental disorders like to ascribe interpretive flights of rhetoric as actual diseases. Psychology. Anyway, I have nothing against psychology. I'm not opposed to psychologists or anything. I just think that these disorders are ridiculous. They just say, well, this population of people has a shared habit of forgetting their shit at home. Let's call it ADHD. This population has a shared habit of not going along with what I say without fighting me. Let's call it ODD. These people over there keep complaining about our ridiculous classification of things as disorders. Let's call it anti-disorder phobia. Okay, you can call it that if you want, or you can call it your shit's fucking stupid. That's probably a more accurate description of it.
Now, Eric, that's a clear representation that you obviously have anti-conformity disorder.
It's called ODD, Ken. Oppositional defiant disorder. Okay.
Okay.
Look, we're not saying your disagreement is wrong. We're saying it's not your fault because you have a disease.
I hate that. I had mentioned this, I think, or not this, but something very kind of similar, and I think Jessica Britvick asked a question, and I responded to her in one of my videos. And like the response I'd used was that, or rather, I don't know if I said specifically there. What I'm talking about now is I don't like it so much when people are dismissive of me, but as long as people aren't dismissive of me, they can be dismissive of my ideas. So like all the platitudes in the world, like, oh, like all the, padding and stuff like that. If I don't feel engaged or not even like respected for who I am, respected as an entity,
Right.
then it's like,
as a legitimate other. The other person sees you as a legitimate other.
Yeah. Basically, at that point, then if they start arguing and be like, no, your reasoning for this is bullshit, then I'm like, well, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I have to do that sometimes too. I got to backpedal and I gotta be like, I shouldn't see. It's like I try to keep track of risky angles I might take and not take them, right? Don't ever say that because that opens you up to this response. But, I also try to get into my meow of the moment. It's it's a little, you gotta get yourself all worked up and all of a sudden you're, you know? It's not like I'm doing it, scripting it or anything. It's just, I like that feeling. And so it's easy enough for me to let myself go there.
You need to get out in front of it. You can avoid Evie dancing just by getting out in front of it by starting what you're going to say, not by saying, something like, Ken, I love you, but, but, and then go into it. You say, therefore, because I like you, therefore, and then go into your rant. I'm saying this because I respect you. Because I like you as an individual, I'm going to take the time to say that you're wrong as shit, and somebody needs to point it out because you're stupid right now.
Oh my God, Ken, I have so much respect for you.
No.
Because you have
You're doing it too much.
so much wrongness that I want to love the amazing amount of wrongness you have. It's a bounty of a bevy of bathing beauties of wrongness.
It doesn't have to go that far. That's why I said you get out in front of it and then you launch into
Well,
it.
you're a little bit stronger on the FE, Ken. Sometimes I overdo it. You gotta coach me a bit. All right, that's your INFJ role.
Eric, I love you. Therefore, shut the fuck up.
Thanks for watching Talking with Famous People.